All right, what's happening, everybody? Back again, it's Mr. Olson, and today we're going to be doing a little bit more with our bow arm. This is the final page of the sheet that we've been working with in the beginnings of this playlist, and we're going to actually be able to talk a little bit about tone, which there's a lot of cool things that you can do with your bow, and your bow does most of this on your instrument. It's responsible for almost all the tone things that we bring out. So again, I'm gonna guide you through a bunch of different exercises, and this is gonna be a lot of exploring on your part. And you'll find the instructions is gonna be the last page of the sheet that is linked within all the videos of the Google Classroom. And be sure to follow along because there are gonna be descriptions on there that you can come back to over and over again. All right, so here we go. We are going to talk about the different properties of our tone. All right, so one of the tone properties is pitch. So I just played A, D, F sharp, A. All right, so it's what notes we are playing. Now that's really connected with intonation, but our tone is going to be directly impacted by our intonation, because if we play the note, that D in tune, if you notice I kind of slid up into it, it's kind of dead there. It really rings if it's in tone. All right, the next thing is the loudness, or that's the intensity of the sound. A lot of times we call that the volume. So am I playing, maybe even fade it out a little bit on your video, or am I playing pretty? That's the loudness. That's a scientific physics acoustics term that tells out the intensity of the sound. All right, next is the tone color, or the timbre of the sound. And we want to, on our string instruments, we want to see if we can have a very bright sound, but we also want it to have some of those dark tones. All right, we want to have that brilliance and ring combined with warmth and richness. All right, the last thing that our tone is going to have is how long we actually hear that tone, or the note length. Again, a lot of you think about that as whole notes and half notes, but just think about every single note is going to have 3 parts to it. All right, so we are going to have with those 3 parts, we're going to have a beginning, a middle, and an end to each note. And if I want to describe those musically, we're going to have our beginning is our attack, our middle is our sustain, and our end is how we're going to release from the note. Now, if you think about these 3 parts to every single note and how you can kind of play around with them, you're going to be endlessly fascinated with music, because you can make those choices on every single note, and it also gives you lots of things to practice. So if I just give you an example how I start a note, I kind of started that one with a little bit of little chop, or I might want to start it drifting in. Might want to have the middle of the note get louder and sustain, and I want the end of the note of the release with the stinger. Maybe I want to have the end of the note kind of just fade off. All right, so we have lots of those ideas in our duration of a note. So again, pitch, what note you're playing, loudness, how much sound is happening, or the intensity, the tone color that you're going to want, and the duration. So again, we said that tone production is mostly controlled by the bow. All right, and it's going to be a combination of 3 different things. All right, we want to go how fast, the speed of the bow, how much weight or pressure, and the sounding point. So if I go with, for instance, we'll talk about this later, but if I go with a heavy bow and super slow, it's not going to sound very good. So when we get our beginning tone, again, I've talked about this before, but we want to get the bow parallel to the bridge, kind of over those circles from the F holes, have enough bow weight with a heavy elbow, and fast enough bow that we get rid of those kind of crunchy sounds. All right, tone is controlled by your bow. But if you're like, I'm doing everything right, but why isn't it not sounding good, especially when I use my fingers? So you're like, I get a good sound, but then I put my fingers down and it sounds wispy or crunchy. What you're probably not doing is putting enough pressure to trap the string to the fingerboard. All right. Now, I don't want you to press so hard that all the color goes out of your hand and you start to cramp up. We want to have kind of like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, just enough pressure to trap that string that it goes like this, rather than the same bow stroke my finger wasn't down hard enough. All right, so now as we go along with our bow, again, with our sound envelope, we had all those different things that we could be messing around with. We have that idea with our tone variables as well. So if I take my bow and I use more weight, I gotta use a little bit faster bow. If I use less weight, but I go really fast, my tone is gonna be kind of spread out. So if I use less pressure, I want to use less speed, almost like we did when we did those 100 down bows or the 30-second bows. All right, decrease. If you have a decrease of pressure with constant speed, you're going to want to make sure that that sound point or where the bow is on the instrument moves closer to the fingerboard. All right, so I'm using less pressure, same speed. I get away with it a little bit more if I'm closer to the bridge. If I want to use more speed and constant pressure, all right, so I'm going to go fast. I want to move my sounding point a little bit more towards the fingerboard. And again, not obnoxious. We're talking about millimeters here. But if I go that speed, you can see it doesn't sound so good, but I can get away with that out here. That's why sometimes when you see me, I'm not always in the lane of the highway or the bow highway that's close to the bridge. I sometimes go out here, but I'm still trying to keep it parallel. All right. If I do less speed and constant pressure, again, moving the sounding point towards the bridge, and sounding point changes position, especially depending on what string I'm playing on, and especially if I'm up into some higher positions. So I'm going to use my E string as an example. If I play, now I'm drifting ourselves to, I'm in 7th position right now. So when I'm in 7th position, my string is a lot shorter. All right, it only goes from my finger to the bridge. If I drift my bow closer to the fingerboard, it's gonna howl and hiss at me because I'm not taking into account that my sounding point needs to change, especially if my finger is closer to the bridge. I need to move my bow a lot closer to the bridge to get that sound point in the right spot. And again, if I am on a lower string, the sound point can change because it's just a fatter string to be working with. All right, the last thing is some tone character things. We could go on different tone characters forever and ever, but if you are trying to do some of these different characters, you can make little adjustments to them as you go along. But if you want a light and loose character, you're gonna use fast bow and not much pressure. All right, it kind of sounds like we are just skipping along, having a good time. All right, if I want to have a kind of intense, solid, heavy character, all right? Heavy bow, and I'm not going crazy fast, all right? If I want my sound point to be closer to the bridge, that's going to give us a bright and crisp character. Again, I liked, in my last example, I was up in really close to the bridge, and that's going to give this really bright. Now, if I want to make that same idea happen, I'm going to go. Now I can drift a little bit closer to the fingerboard, and it sounds like I'm maybe kind of a little bit muffled or a little bit further away, but it hasn't spread to that crunchy sound. All right, so hopefully those give you a bunch of ideas that you can mess around with your tone. Again, as you're playing a song, anything easy, Ode to Joy, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, to the hardest concertos you could ever play with. If you give each note a character, each note your best tone variable that makes sense, if you give each note an idea of the sound envelope, and you are making sure that you're following through to the best sound that you choose, you are going to be endlessly fascinated with your music. All right, thank you so much for doing all of these videos with me. Go back to the ones that make the most sense for you. And if you have any questions, don't feel shy in terms of emailing me or commenting on the video. And it's been really cool to do these videos with me. Again, remember, comment, email, submit any questions you have. And I'm excited to make some more videos for you. Take it easy. Bye.